Hey guys, Caffeinated Boy here and welcome to real life. It is horrendous and I'm probably getting horrendously sunburned as we speak. The reason why we are outside at such an early hour is because myself and Steve here, we're here to take part in the Club 100 Enduro at the Lid circuit. Now, the purpose of this series, I've done a couple of karting videos before, kind of getting my feet wet in karting in the Buckmore rental cars, which are quite different from the ones we're driving today, but we'll go over that in a second. And the kind of goal of this series is to have the perspective of a complete novice, myself, trying to get involved in one of the fastest arrive and drive karting series in the UK. Now, Steve's been doing this for a long time, which is why he's here to make me look good. Tell us a bit about the series, Steve.
So yeah, this is the Club 100 series. So today we're doing a 2-hour endurance race. So we're a two-man team. We have to make a load of driver changes. So Jimmy will be familiar with the idea of endurance racing. He's done loads of that on iRacing, on Assetto Corsa. But doing it for real is a very different proposition. So the fact that we've got an experienced driver and
A pleb.
a pleb, it should be very exciting. We'll be able to see Jimmy's progress from yesterday going out in the kart for the first time ever, and then let's see where he can get up to.
So speaking of that, we actually have some footage from yesterday, from the practice session, and as we said, it was my first time ever out in this kart, and it was kind of up and down. Initially it was very difficult. I found the kart tricky to get the hang of, but as time went on, times got faster, and I think we have some highlights for that, so we're going to just whack that in there at some point and you can see kind of what happened.
So here we are a day previous on the Friday in my first session out in the kart. And the thing nobody tells you, because they assume you know it, is that karts need to warm up. I left the pits and the kart felt like it had no power. And when I turned into the first chicane, the kart had no grip either. I nearly went off the circuit, and for some reason the sim racer in me forgot all about that, and lo and behold, next lap we got through to the first chicane, my first flying lap. I turned the kart in, nothing. Kart goes around, spins off into the tree bark, and now I am looking like a complete tit trying to push the thing out of the tree bark on my first lap around. Despite being thoroughly embarrassed, the experience of going off straight away was kind of actually motivating, because I know I don't want to be doing that. I want to be going out and doing as well as I can. So I came in, spoke to Steve a bit, went out, and by the end I was putting in consistent lap times, and that was the important thing. Consistency is what we needed, given that it's my first go, my first race.
So speaking of the karts, they're quite new for me and probably for you guys on the channel. Here is the Club 100 kart, and Steve, our expert, is going to walk you through it.
Suppose expert anyway. So here it is, the Club 100 kart. These are what we're going to be driving today. So compared to the karts that Jimmy would have driven very recently, these are a fair chunk quicker. These accelerate a lot quicker, they brake a lot sharper, they turn a lot quicker. So in every aspect, these are very, very different. They're more aggressive and a lot more fun. So it's going to be an interesting experience, of course, just trying to get used to something different. They're very even as well. So across the whole fleet of karts, it's maybe a few tenths of a second difference between all of them. So it's very even. So it really does come down to driver skill.
So as karts far up in the background, we're going to talk about the element of the driver swaps in this, because as Steve mentioned at the start, this is a driver swap series, it's 2-hour enduro. I couldn't do that on my own. As such, there are certain things that we have to do when we swap drivers. The first thing, and because I am tiny compared to the hulking mass that is Steve GT, is that we have to change the pedals around. So down here, if you come right down here, you can see there are notches on the pedals. You have to pull it down the bottom like that, is that push, and then get it in like that. And that's where my pedal position is, and Steve's pedal position is right at the top like that. I mean, if I do that in the pit stop. Also, because there's a minimum weight in this series of 85 kilograms, fortunately I have to have some ballast. I'm under 85 kilos, so round on this side of the kart, we have a couple of little bits of kind of lead that we have, which go on here to keep the weight fair. The idea is to make sure that you can't come in here as a 60 kilo ringer and just go around and be quick. Everyone's got to have a minimum weight.
So something to note about this type of kart racing is the tyres. So we'll be using slick tyres. Today it's actually a little bit damp out on the track, but we do not change the tyres. We're always going to be using the slicks. They are brand new for today, so there should be a fair amount of grip, but we never change to wets. So that is something that might sound unusual, but it's the same for everyone. So again, it comes down to driver skill. It's really a matter of who can adapt to the conditions as best as possible. And the reason why we don't change tyres is because there's a fleet of about 50 karts here, and there's only about 3 mechanics. It will take a good half an hour, 45 minutes every time it rains and every time it stopped raining to change it from wets to slicks and slicks to wets. So it wouldn't really work out in terms of time.
Right, okay, so we're just about to have the driver's briefing and just taking a moment to kind of relax before we get out and do practice, etc. I must kind of confess, I'm a little bit nervous about going out, and a lot of it is just because this is a bit more serious than what I've done before. A lot of very quick drivers here. You know, everyone's coming suited and booted. It's not like a rental kart thing. These are fairly quick. And for me, as someone who's just like a massive, passionate racing fan, you know, I love my sim racing, and I'd be lying if I say there's not a little bit of ego there. And I think the worst thing that could happen for me today is go out and not be okay. Like, I know I'm not going to be at the front of the pack. That's not the goal. The goal is to get out there and just kind of get used to driving in this scenario with karts. But yeah, you know, it'd be a very disappointing day if I came back at the end and just there wasn't anything there. I mean, other than that kind of like niggle in the back of my head, it's still quite exciting. You know, my entire kind of sim racing career has led to a moment where I can now actually come and do this and film it for you guys, and it'd be entertaining, hopefully. So yeah, hopefully it all goes okay. Fingers crossed. There he is.
We're kart number 56.
56. Is that garage 56? Is that garage 59? Garage 59, isn't it? Well, nearly. We're garage 59 minus 3.
Same thing.
You're no Chris Harris, mate.
Yeah. I got to say mega more. It's a bit good, this, isn't it? It's a bit good. Really rather special.
But I mean, I like endurance racing. It's probably better than sprint racing. Sprint racing is just too messy.
Yeah,
Too aggressive.
that's kind of why I like enduro, is because it's just it's like a consistency thing. You can go out there and be the fucking quickest guy on the circuit. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, it's more about actually, I guess,
Settling down into a rhythm, mind your own business, minimise mistakes.
something a bit purer to it than just a scrap. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
course,
no,
but-
I know that.
So now, because I'm a rookie to this series, this is my first ever race in Club 100, we've been placed in the bottom class. There are 3 classes. It's a Premier, Clubman and Intermediate, and we're right down in the bottom. So I guess the goal for us is to get out of that class as soon as possible, and maybe this race will be enough to do that. But in terms of like competition, it's not going to be too much pressure for the first race. There are some quick guys out here in Intermediate, so we aren't going to be just on our own. And of course, Steve is very quick as well. So I guess if we can finish in a decent position, that'd be really nice. Otherwise, just get to the end and try and focus on what it is to drive one of these things for a long period of time.
Right, okay, good morning. Sorry, a little bit late on the briefing, but we'll get there, I'm sure. Right, rules specific for the day. This is a lid, this is round 7. Just want to talk about the karts very quickly. Engines have just come back from service. Brand new tyres all round, all fresh new boots all round, guys. So look, allow time, please. I don't want you going out there 2 laps coming in. Don't work, okay? Allow time. We have 2 or 3 tyre walls and indeed cones out there in force today. Leave them alone. With the penalties, any black flag penalties, it will be a straightforward stop-go penalty. So we're not going to be obviously applying 10 or 20 second time penalties. It will be a straightforward stop-go penalty.
Let me show you the thing. You don't necessarily have to hold it out like a flag, just hold it up
Yeah.
like a...
Yeah, just hold it bunched or something, so we avoid the...
wave it, that's the 1 lap signal. As you come around again, keep it up if you're coming in, and as you're coming down the back straight, hopefully you should be able to see it. It's bright red.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So I mean, I'll just look for it, and if I see it, I'll go, okay, well, in next lap.
If you see it, you come in next lap. If you still see it, you come in. You come in. If you don't see it, you don't come in.
I think if you just come in now, and then if I can't come in, I'll go around again.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. To look at this, Steve's got some proper interesting. Look, this guy's serious. This is our layout here, and you can see here the weight that I have to carry, because in all my gear I'm 82 kilos, so I have to weight this. Steve, however, is a unit, and he's all right. But we have pit windows, so we have 5 pit windows where we have to pit. Like, there's no question about it. So we'll come in up. I mean, we're not really sure who's starting. It's probably going to be Steve starting, just because get us out there and get a nice bit of space, etc. But So he'll be out for about 40 minutes. We're going to double stint the first one, and then I'll get in, double stint that, and then probably 2 singles at the end to finish it off. But yeah. Right, so practice session is just starting now. We're going to send Steve out very quickly to get an idea of the conditions, because Steve's a bit more experienced than I am, or a lot more experienced than I am. It's a kind of semi-damp track. It's still wet in a few places, but there's a lot of dry out there as well. So Steve's going to go out, kind of get a feel for it. We're also going to practice a pit stop as well. We've got the signalling flag just down there. Hold it up just to let him know, right, come in, and then we're going to try it and do a drive swap that way. It's kind of the same almost before like a big sim event. You start getting a little bit antsy, you know. The caffeine doesn't help, admittedly. The heart rate starts up, but you start getting a little bit more alert and everything, and yeah. I'm also worried about filming. You might have been unlapping film. So we've got our, I won't say what flag it is, but it's a red flag, we'll say that much. And basically it's just our pit communication to let him know to pit in. The reason why we're not unfurling it is because otherwise you might end up thinking people have a red flag. So we're trying to keep it bunched up. It's a nice easy thing for Steve to see, so he can come in and practice his pit stop. There you go, so you've got a little bit of acknowledgement there, so it should be in this flag. He might not come in, but it's just to see if he can see the flag, I think. So we have a few minutes to go in practice, and then qualifying begins. I'm going to be qualifying because we're in the lowest class, so it'll be unfair if Steve qualifies. Session starts soon. I'm not going to be doing any commentary for this. I'm going to try and concentrate the best I can, and just see where we can go. I mean, if we can get somewhere in the top 3 in the intermediates, that'll be a result, I think.
Okay then, let's take a look at Jimmy's qualifying lap. So he comes through the final corner, crosses the line now. The timer is ticking through the first chicane, fast sweeping chicane this, and you do have to maximise the curb as he does. As you come up to the second chicane then, look for the tyres on the right hand side to prevent you curbing too much. Jimmy just clips the curb on this occasion, the cart bogs down slightly as you come then to the hairpin at the far end of the circuit. Comes through here really early on the throttle. Actually did a really good job of getting good drive as we sweep left over the crest, back down the other side into a fast sweeping right. Keeps the throttle planted all the way through. Lots of damp patches here, so difficult conditions, but Jimmy's doing a very good job of manhandling this machine around the circuit. Down the back straight, the fastest section of the track, into the fast sweeping right-hander at the very end of the track. Coming back for a late apex, as you should. And he's going to come across the line to set a 45.4, 0.8 seconds off the pole position time, and for a beginner, that is a very solid performance.
Only one corner, I'm really struggling. There's the one coming onto the back. Right, so just went out for practice. The track's in a kind of transitional state right now where it's dry in some places and damp in others. So it's really just making sure you're staying off the wet stuff. Because when you go on that on slick tyres, there's just zero grip. You'll see it in some of the footage that I just put a wheel on some of the wet stuff and straight away the car gets away from you. So it's just trying to get the hang of that. A lot of the guys out here are very experienced, so I was just trying to find a little bit of a gap in the circuit to get out there and really try and just have a bit of free space, so to speak. But otherwise it feels good. The track is drying, and by the time we probably get to the race, it'll probably be almost dry. So the only place that I think is still wet is on the outside of the second to last corner. You have to go right on the inside there to get the grip. On the outside it's just wet. When I came to pit in, I almost binned it because I hit the wet bit. That's just how on edge it is. But it's going to make for a really fun race, hopefully a good video for you guys.
So Jimmy's just done qualifying and he's going to start the race. So we're starting about 20th, I'm not sure exactly, but we'll find out in just a moment. Now it's a 2x2 roll up to the grid. It's kind of like what you might have seen at the Mon 24 Hour. So they'll roll up in formation, rolling start, and then they go away. So Jimmy's going to be out there for about 40 minutes. He's in the middle of the pack, so it's really just a case of trying to settle down, get into the race, don't have too many incidents, or don't have any incidents ideally, and just have a clean, sensible and consistent stint.
So, whilst I'm about to change the battery on my GoPro, so we qualified, I think 22nd, was it, something like that? 22nd, which is towards the back of the field, but it's not too far off. I mean, my first qualifying ever, so I'm not happy with that. 9/10 off pole, I think it was in the end, really close in karting. So a bit closer than yesterday in terms of practice, but of course time to make up. I'm going to be starting because I think the idea is that I'll get to race with people around my level, and then we'll put Steven, and he can go wreck some people.
The start of any race, be it a sim race or a real life race, is hectic. But you have to turn it up a notch for Club 100. It's the easiest time of the race to gain a position, and also the easiest time to lose a position. But that wasn't what was going through my head. All I could think was, Jimmy, just don't crash, don't bin this, don't ruin it. And that was what was going through my head as the green flags dropped.
So we're about 10 minutes into the race. So Jimmy's had, well, let's have a look at where he is. I mean, he started 22nd. He's going okay. He hasn't had any incidents. That's the main thing. I mean, he knows this from iRacing. For those of you who watch his iRacing content, you just want to make sure you don't get involved in some silly crash on the first corner, on the first lap. And so far, he's gone round very consistently, hasn't made a mistake, and he's settled down very nicely into the race.
Pit stops are something that we practice because even though I wasn't the fastest person on track, we could quite easily save time in the pit lane by just minimising how much time we were stationary for. But even though I drilled into my head what I had to do when I come into a pit lane, everything just kind of went a little bit wrong. I couldn't quite get the fuel cap on. I actually had trouble getting out the cart because I was shaking because of how much I was concentrating and the adrenaline running as well. And it was a little bit clumsy. But eventually I managed to get the fuel cap back on and got back out the pit lane to complete the second part of my first 40-minute stint. All was going well, I settled down, I was putting in consistent lap times, I even overtook somebody somehow. But then this happened. It's hard to tell exactly what happened given that I only have one point of view, which is my own. But from my point of view, I had opened up the corner exit because the guy behind me was faster. I was going to let him pull by on the inside. But as he was exiting the corner, he just leaned on me. He kept leaning on me. He was pushing me out further and further wide until he was fully on the curb. I was in the grass, and by the time you're in the grass, there's no grip, and I went flying into the tyres. Once I got up and running again, I could really feel a twinge in my right shoulder. I didn't really know what I had done to it, and my neck felt pretty sore as well. But probably against my best interest, I continued the stint, waited until Steve called me in, and then came back into the pit lane and complained lots.
I
Huh?
got bins at the top, I put the tyres really hard, I think I popped the shoulder.
Oh, you're shitting me.
No. So, just in my first stint, I didn't have a chance to mic up unfortunately because we were kind of rushed on the grid. But about midway through the stint, some guy was lapping me, overtaking me, I don't know what he was doing. I gave him all the room on the inside and he drove me off the track into the tyres. I hit the tyres at a decent speed and my shoulder's now pretty achy, so I don't really know if I'm going to be going back out or not. I'm going to try to, but I don't really know what the hell he was doing. He just decided that he didn't want me on the circuit. He had so much room on the inside but just gave me nothing. And I'll probably go find him after the race and have a word with him, I think. I mean, apart from that, the stint was okay. I kind of felt that I started overdriving it a little bit. You can feel it because karts like to be driven relatively smoothly, and I was having real trouble getting it to do that whilst being quick. The problem corner you'll probably see is the second chicane, the left hand. I was always carrying way too much speed into there. And kind of by the time I figured it out, it got to the end of the stint, it wasn't as great. But yeah, those guys, they're brutal out there. I think it's kill or be killed, and I got killed. Right, so current situation with just under 45 minutes to go. When I got out of the kart, we were running 4th in class. We're now up to 3rd. Steve is the fastest kart on the track at the moment, so really carrying us once again. I've decided I'm going to try and go back out. My shoulder is a bit painful, but I think I can drive through it and then do a short stint and then Steve go to the end to have a fair share driver time. What I don't want to do is do 40 minutes, then Steve do an hour and 20. I want it to be down the middle and then try and improve from there. But yeah, there's a good chance we can get a podium here. I need to just keep it clean on the next stint, and then Steve's got to go quick at the end. So yeah, getting a bit tense now.
Felt good out there. Yeah, smooth stint, not too many issues at all. Just got out there, churned out some consistent laps. Now Jimmy's out there. Let's see what he can do now, because he's had his first stint out of the way. He's got some good practice now. He can settle down into the race, hopefully let's both bring home a good result. So we're 3rd in class, so we're in with the shout at the podium. If we can get a podium on our first day together, that is awesome. So Jimmy, it's up to you now, mate. Go and have a good stint.
Despite being fairly achy after the crash earlier on, I went out for my last stint, and I must say it was probably the best that I drove all weekend. I actually ended up setting my fastest lap too at 45.1, which was 3 tenths faster than I went in qualifying. So again, faster in the race than I am in qualifying apparently.
So that's my last stint done. I'm not sure where we are. I'm going to go check in a minute. I think we're still in P3. Much better this time. I think I drove better than I did in the first stint, which is nice. I kind of started to use a bit more of the road in different places. I think my time hopefully came down a bit as a result. And my shoulder's still aching quite a bit. Luckily, when you get out there, the adrenaline kicks in, so you're all right. But you can see how physical this is. You know, I'm not a fit guy. Admittedly, I'm definitely not in shape. But after that, you know, I'm sweating, I can feel it everywhere. It really is a physical thing, and I can tell you that after this I'm going to be probably falling apart. So we have 10 minutes left now. Steve's in the car, putting in ridiculous lap times as always. Let's just see what he can do. Right. Okay, so the 44 there, it's the position. That's 3rd. There's Steve. He knows he's racing him, so he's going after him hard. We've got about 5 minutes left. Steve is probably the fastest guy on the circuit right now, but that's literally it. That's the battle for the podium with 5 minutes to go. Pretty intense.
Definitely catching it. Oh, Steve. Go on, Steve! So nonchalant.
So one of the downsides to not being in a sim is you don't really get correct results all the time. I thought Steve, that was the 3rd place, was actually unlapping himself from the guy who's currently in 2nd. So we're still in fourth. But like, that's the pace of Steve. You see how quickly he closed him down. Regardless, I think last lap now to come home in fourth position with whilst being literally killed during the race. I'm pretty happy with that. So here come the winners now. Where's Steve? Where's my boy? Look for the white helmet. There he is. There's Steve. Woo! Good effort there. Steve's an absolute weapon, man. What a pleasure to race with him. What a pleasure. Well, that's it. I can tell you now the adrenaline's worn off and my shoulder hurts quite a lot. But we'll ignore the diva-ish for now, diva bit for now. All right. Nearly, mate, nearly. Nearly. Fourth in the end.
Yeah, I think we're about like 10 seconds off.
Yeah.
10 seconds.
I thought the guy was in position. I was like, oh, I can get him, but like, you're unlapping yourself.
Okay, well done, well done.
Really good effort, man. That was fantastic.
Endurance,
Aside from the being murdered, I think everything went really well.
Yeah, like your start was smooth, steady, just got on with it, and then settled down. What happened up there? Was it just like a quicker guy was just coming through and then...
Yeah, like I gave him the room. Like I wasn't pinching. I was on the outside. He just kept coming. Like I wasn't there and pushed me off.
Was that like just before the crest, wasn't it?
Just coming out of the right.
Pirates, a club
Nearly.
and team. Great stuff, brilliant. Another round of applause, please. Our top three Premier teams taking those top three spots in the endurance
Well,
today.
that's it for here at Lid, and I guess it's kind of a race of what could have been if we didn't have the incident at the top there. I think realistically, probably lost about a lap and a bit, maybe even more. The thing wasn't the initial incident; it was I had to turn the kart around afterwards, and that thing's got a terrible turning circle, and I had to then wait, and that was kind of the downside. And I can feel confident in saying that it really wasn't my fault. I was just shoved off the circuit, so. I think that was the main thing we wanted to do, is come into this race and have no faults that were our fault. So we kind of accomplished that. But of course, like being that one off the podium is always a little bit frustrating, isn't it? But
yeah, we were really close actually. I think it was about 15 seconds, which might sound like a big gap, but over 2 hours, that's not that much. So mainly, yeah, two things I'd say. Of course, the incident, not our fault, but you always want to have an incident-free race. And then maybe two for next time, improve the pit stops. Maybe a little bit slow, changing the lead, the pedals, and the driver each time.
So the main thing that Steve pointed out is that I was putting on the cap before driving, and what you're going to want to do is put the cap on whilst driving down the pit lane. And that sounds like a very minor thing, but that's like 2 or 3 seconds.
Save 3 seconds every time, 5 pit stops, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So that alone could have got us onto the podium. So there's lots of little, tiny things that all add up to make a big difference, and those are the things we have to work on for next time.
Well, yeah, it's a burning question. How did I do first time out?
I think you did really good.
Yeah.
Honestly, obviously we had the crash, but we can forget about that. This is his first time out in a fast car, out with a lot of big boys out there. Didn't have really any incidents apart from that, of course. But apart from that,
Can you stop with that?
very consistent, settled down into the race, consistent lap times, just got on with the business, and yeah, just performed very well.
I think the main thing for me was the braking. I'm still getting used to like getting that right. I kind of started getting it towards the end, like in the last 10 minutes of my stint, I started to nailing that bit up there, using quite a lot of curb on the initial bit to kind of widen the corner on the exit. I didn't do that initially, and that made that corner a lot easier. But I'm still finding that I'd be losing on the brake. Also, I don't know, I guess you don't struggle with this too much, but for me, I'm one of the slower guys out there. Well, I say kind of bottom half at least. I'm also feeling my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I'm always like I try and wave people by without having to fight them, and try and just keep the pace up. I'm not sure if that's the right attitude to have, but it's the attitude that I've had like in sim racing. So maybe that's something to adjust, but interesting little fact, I think.
Yeah, typically I think normally you just stick to your line, stick to what you're doing. And if someone's quicker, they will just find a way through. So maybe looking behind, you're distracting yourself from the task of just going around quickly and consistently. So yeah, maybe something to work on for next time.
yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to end it off. But I'll say now, guys, that if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, do the subscribing stuff as well. Of course, check out Super GT, otherwise you'll be sent to the Shadow Realm, and that'll be the end of that. And yeah, big thank you to Club 100 for allowing us to come along and film this and do this. We held up the start earlier because I was trying to get my mic out, and this ended up ruining it. Oh, by the way, I think I should do this earlier on. We did get my phone back. That's how it looks now. It got run over. It got launched out of the cockpit somehow. The cockpit being my suit, and just completely destroyed. So maybe not doing that in future. That's why there's no onboard commentary or anything like that because of that. And yeah, we won't be here for the next round because unfortunately I'm preoccupied. But we'll be back, and hopefully we can chase that podium. Steve.
Yep.
It's been a pleasure, my own. Don't you fucking leave me hanging, dude.
Pleasure.
Have a good one. Cheers, guys.